The late-night drive was supposed to be uneventful for John, a solace from the hustle and bustle of his demanding job. As a middle-aged businessman, he had grown accustomed to these long, solitary drives. The rhythmic hum of the tires against the asphalt usually brought him comfort, allowing him to clear his mind and think about life outside the four walls of his office. The desolate highway stretched ahead, a seemingly endless ribbon of asphalt surrounded by barren landscape. With each passing mile, the weight of loneliness pressed down on him. The dim lights from the dashboard illuminated his tired face, highlighting the lines etched from years of stress and challenges. It was then that he noticed a faint silhouette by the roadside. The figure was almost swallowed by the vastness of the night, but as he approached, the details became clearer. A man, his thumb outstretched, seeking a ride. John's immediate reaction was caution. He had heard stories of nefarious individuals preying on the goodwill of strangers. But then a softer voice within him spoke of kindness and the weight of loneliness that the man might be feeling on this godforsaken road. He pulled over and the man climbed in, nodding his gratitude. The hitchhiker seemed ordinary enough, early 30s, wearing a worn-out jacket and jeans with a scruffy beard suggesting days without a proper shave. "Thanks," the hitchhiker murmured, settling into the seat. "Not many people stop on this stretch." "Just doing my part," John replied, flashing a small smile. "Where are you headed?" The hitchhiker's gaze fixed on the road ahead. "Somewhere you wouldn't want to know," he replied cryptically. Unsettled but not wanting to push, John returned his focus to driving. For a while, the only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional gust of wind outside. Suddenly, the hitchhiker spoke. "Let's play a game. A simple choice, really." John frowned. "A game? At this hour?" The hitchhiker smiled, revealing a set of slightly yellowed teeth. "Trust me, it'll make the journey more interesting." Before John could protest, the hitchhiker continued, explaining the deadly proposition of the two pills. One pill would ensure his safe release, while the other would end his life right then and there. John's initial instinct was to dismiss the ludicrous claim, but the unwavering intensity in the hitchhiker's gaze signaled grave sincerity. This wasn't some twisted joke. John's initial instinct was to laugh it off, but the gravity in the hitchhiker's eyes told a different story. This wasn't a joke. To emphasize his point, the hitchhiker slowly retrieved a small, sharp knife from his bag and laid it on the dashboard. "Refuse the game, and this knife decides our fate." Panic welled up inside John. Every possible scenario ran through his mind. Should he slam on the brakes, try to wrestle the man, or attempt to call for help? But the vast emptiness outside reminded him of the futility of such actions. Feeling trapped, he agreed to the game. The hitchhiker presented the pills, one red, one blue. Each second that passed felt like an eternity as John tried to make a choice. Finally, he opted for the blue pill. Swallowing hard, John took the pill, his mind racing with thoughts of his family, his life, and all the things he might never get to do. The minutes that followed were agonizing. The oppressive silence in the car was punctuated only by the ticking of the car's clock and the hitchhiker's faint, eerie humming. Suddenly, the silence was broken by laughter. The hitchhiker's chuckles echoed in the car, making John's skin crawl. "Did you really think I'd poison you?" he said, still laughing. The real game was about choices, about seeing how fear can control us. John's relief was immeasurable, but it was mixed with anger and humiliation. He had been played. But before he could react, the hitchhiker motioned for him to stop the car. Leaving behind the knife on the passenger seat as a chilling memento of the night's events, the hitchhiker stepped out into the night. His parting words, "Life's full of choices, some more real than others," haunted John as he resumed his drive. The journey that followed was more than just the miles covered. It was an introspection into the fragility of life, the decisions we make and the realities we often take for granted. The night's events were a stark reminder for John of the unpredictability of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Months later, when the trauma of the event had faded slightly, John found himself recounting the story to close friends and family. It served as a reminder not just for him, but for all who heard it. to appreciate life, be cautious, but also kind, and to understand that life's true essence lies in the choices we make. The highway stretched out in front of David like an endless ribbon, snaking its way through the darkness. The soft glow of the dashboard bathed the car's interior in a dim light, while the faint melodies of classical music from the radio added to the calm of the night. David, a tall, broad-shouldered man in his early 40s, relished these moments of solitude. It gave him an escape, a momentary respite from the humdrum of his demanding daily life. The trees on either side of the road blurred into one continuous stretch, their shadows dancing eerily with each passing headlight. The dusk had settled in, making the atmosphere outside seem a tad colder and more mysterious than usual. As he navigated a particularly shadowy bend, David's headlights illuminated a lone figure standing by the roadside, thumb outstretched. A hitchhiker. David's first instinct was to drive past. After all, it was rare for him to pick up strangers. But tonight, something was different. An inexplicable urge prompted him to slow down and pull over. The hitchhiker approached, casting a slightly wary glance. He was a young man, probably in his late 20s. His slightly disheveled appearance hinted at a day spent on the road, and his eyes held a certain weariness. He opened the door and stepped into the warm cocoon of the car. "Thanks for stopping," he said, his voice hoarse, probably from the cold. "Name's Max." David nodded, offering a brief smile. "David," he responded. The journey resumed. The two men found themselves wrapped in easy conversation. Max spoke of his adventures, of the people he had met, and the places he had seen on his travels. Every so often, David would chime in with an anecdote or two of his own. The mood inside the car was relaxed, a sharp contrast to the dark, desolate world outside. As the miles rolled on and the silences grew longer, Max suddenly broke the quiet, his voice tinged with a mix of amusement and genuine curiosity. "You know, David, it's pretty gutsy of you to pick up a stranger like me, especially with all the horror stories you hear these days. People are always afraid they'll end up picking up some psycho or serial killer." David smiled, his face partially illuminated by the passing streetlights, lending a soft glow to his features. "Well, Max," he began, his voice dripping with an eerie calmness, "I've never been overly concerned about that." Max chuckled, trying to mask his unease. "Why's that?" Taking a moment, David then replied, "I mean, what are the chances of two serial killers being in the same car?" The ambiance inside the vehicle shifted palpably. The weight of David's words hung in the air, dense and foreboding. Max's laughter died instantly, replaced by a growing realization. The two men exchanged a prolonged, intense glance, understanding dawning on both their faces. Outside, the world continued its night song, oblivious to the chilling drama unfolding inside the car. The rest of the journey was marked by an oppressive silence, punctuated only by the distant tunes from the radio and the steady hum of the car's engine. Neither man spoke, both lost in the gravity of the revelation and the unnerving game of cat and mouse that lay ahead. If you enjoyed these chilling tales and want more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Stay safe out there, and remember, not everything is as it seems. Until next time.